Here is a rather absurd dialogue. John: I think that coronavirus is not real. It's just a hoax to scare people. Anne: well, here are some peer-reviewed papers on cases all over the world. Have a look and let's talk tomorrow. Next day. John: I've read the papers. Now I think that this is the worst virus we've ever seen, and it will probably kill 80% of all humanity. So it turns out that John is open-minded, but not a critical thinker. What does this have to do with necessary and sufficient conditions?
Part 5.
The necessary conditions represent the supporting reasons that must be included to demonstrate that the conclusion of an argument is true. Certain claims could require many necessary conditions in order to be proven as true. If some or all are missing, then the claim is not proven. Here is a helpful example. The necessary and sufficient conditions for being a teenager are being under 20 and being over 12. The sufficient conditions represent the group of all the requirements we need for a claim or conclusion to be proven as true. When checking the necessary and sufficient conditions to see if the argument holds, it is helpful to assess the argument by rephrasing the conditions. For example, Anna is a teenager because she is over 12. Well, although the reason Anna is over 12 is a necessary condition to be a teenager, the fact that Anna is a teenager is not proven, because this reason alone is not a sufficient condition. We need more reasons to prove the conclusion. For example, if Anna is 36, she is still over 12, but she is definitely not a teenager. We could say Anna is a teenager because she is under 20, but here, similarly, although the reason Anna is under 20 is a necessary condition, it is also not sufficient. Anna could be 5, and therefore not a teenager. So, to prove the claim, we should say Anna is a teenager because she's over 12 and because she's under 20. For the conclusion to be true, both these reasons must be true. And together, these reasons represent sufficient and necessary conditions for the central claim to be true. Let's now discuss the case of necessary but not sufficient. To better understand this concept of necessary but not sufficient, we will use the idea of open-mindedness being a necessary but not sufficient condition for critical thinking. We came across this argument when reading a paper written by Harvey Siegel, which will be linked down below. Siegel argues that critical thinking is the more fundamental ideal for education when compared to open-mindedness. Otherwise put, education systems should focus their efforts on ensuring that as many people as possible are critical thinkers by the time they leave school. And these people should continue leading their lives in a critical thinking spirit, not only having skills such as identifying fallacies or arguing efficiently, but also having and exercising the tendency to apply these skills in their daily lives and having or gaining background knowledge to better apply those skills. Being open to hear reasons for opposing ideas is also one such skill. But in and of itself, this skill is not sufficient to be a critical thinker. As already pointed, many other conditions are required. So the argument here is that education should be focused on developing critical thinking as a whole, rather than aiming only towards open-mindedness. There are two reasons which support this claim. First, open-mindedness is a necessary but not sufficient condition of critical thinking. Indeed, imagine a friend who is generally willing to reconsider his position and adapt his beliefs. But this friend might not be very good at assessing the reasons presented to him. So despite his open-mindedness, we cannot say that this friend is a critical thinker, because he might be lacking important argumentation skills or background knowledge, just like John in the example shown at the beginning of the video. Second, critical thinking is a sufficient but not necessary condition of open-mindedness. Being a critical thinker already embeds being open-minded, but it is not necessary to be a critical thinker in order to achieve this quality. From the two reasons above, it follows that critical thinking is the more fundamental ideal for education when compared to open-mindedness. Always check the arguments presented carefully and assess if their reasons are both necessary and sufficient.